Chapter 25. Author's note. I will be editing some of the parts in this chapter. I wanted to add a battle simulation room. Matt Pav. The party continued inside. But outside, the discussion was tense. Bella, Alice, Edward, Jasper, Carlisle, and I debated as Sam, Jacob, Quill, and Embry followed. Edward questioned, "How long?" Alice answered, "They'll be here in 4 days." Carlisle was worried, this could turn into a bloodbath. Edward asked, "Who's behind it?" Alice shook her head and replied, "I only recognized Riley Beers." I spoke, "He didn't start this. It's Victoria. Her attack on Bella failed before. Now she has created an army to kill her and Edward, and she is playing in the blind spots in Alice's visions." Alice gave a nod and said, "Yes, Matt is right. Whoever did is staying out of the action." Carlisle sighed and said, "Victoria is coming for us all." Jasper, looking at everyone, said, "Either way, the army is coming, and there aren't enough of us to protect the town." Jacob cut in and yelled, "Hold up. The army is coming here." I knew he was about to explode, but a look from Sam made him silent as Carlisle and I shared a look. Carlisle decided to explain, "Newborns. Our kind." Embry questioned, "From what I heard from Matt, they are after Bella for revenge." I gave a nod and replied, "Yes, I don't know why she thought Bella and Edward are responsible for her mate's death. But yes, she is after them." Alice added, "They were passing around Bella's scent. A hoodie." Sam asked, "So with the number of vampires, even if Bella's dead, they will come to Forks?" Carlisle seriously said, "You are right, this is going to be an ugly fight with lives lost. The weight of how serious the situation now lands on all of them." Sma shares a sober look with Embry and Quill an imperceptible nod. Sam said, "Well, the pack will fight." Jacob, hearing this, spoke up, "All right. We're in." Bella answered, "No. You'll get yourselves killed, no way." Jacob replied, "I wasn't asking for permission." Bella looked at Jacob and said, "I am not worrying about just you, idiot. I am worried about the pack putting their lives in danger for me." Edward was silent as he said, "It means more protection for you." Bella shook her head in disbelief as I whispered, "Don't worry, they know the risk." Jasper seriously said, "They'll give us the numbers. And the newborns won't know they even exist. That'll give us an edge. Also, we have Kate and Irina." Carlisle explained, "We'll need to coordinate. We'll all need some training. Fighting newborns requires the knowledge that Jasper has. You're welcome to join us." "All right." Sam gave a nod and asked, "Name the time and place." The next day I wore my gym clothes as I saw Rosalie was wearing black leggings and a black solid tank top. I could only say, "Wow." Rosalie grinned seeing my reaction as she came forward and kissed me while my hands went down and cupped her ass as moaned into the kiss. We soon broke the kiss as Rosalie whispered, "Come on, big boy, we are getting late." We all were in the training ground, which was a large field surrounded by dense forest. I watched Emmett being slung through the air like a ragdoll as he lands hard on his back but immediately springs up to face Jasper, who was his opponent. Emmett in frustration yelled, "Again." Carlisle, Esme, Alice, Sarah, and Rosalie watched them spar. It was not long as Volvo arrived and halt next to Jasper's jeep. Edward and Bella climb out, head into the field together. Halfway across, Edward stops, says, "They're here." From out of the woods 8 giant wolves. As they turn to their human forms, the nanotech suit covers the boys with a sleeveless hoodie, and Leah was wearing a navy blue solid knitted tank top, has a scoop neck, sleeveless. The only person who didn't turn back to human form was Jacob, as Sam said to everyone, "He is having a tantrum, just ignore him." Carlisle gave a nod. He had heard about Jacob's behaviors from Matt as he moved slowly towards in front of the pack and said, "Jasper has experience with newborns. He'll teach us how to defeat them." Sam was curious, questioned, "They want to know how the newborns are different from you." Carlisle answered, "They're a great deal stronger than us because their own human blood lingers in their tissues. Our kind is never more physically powerful than in our first several months of this life. Matt was newborn when he was turned, so you may have noticed he was stronger and faster during his first months after he was changed." Everyone in the pack gave a nod as Jasper to take over. Jasper is initially uncomfortable with the attention, but steps forward and said, "Carlisle's right. That's why they are created. A newborn army doesn't need thousands like a human army. And no human army could stand against them. The 2 most important things to remember are, first, never let them get their arms around you. They'll crush you instantly. The second, never go for the obvious kill. They'll be expecting that. And you will lose." Suddenly everyone noticed background music was playing. As they noticed it was Matt, who grinned, said, "Couldn't resist it." The speech was epic. Rosalie elbowed me on the ribs while others chuckled even though the situation was serious. Sam seriously taking in everything Jasper said as he wanted to make sure the pack does not underestimate these newborns as discreetly looked at Jacob the problem child. 11 comments 0 vote. Chapter 26. Matt Pov. I watched as Jasper got ready to fight as told, Emmett. Don't hold back. Emmett grinned and replied, not in my nature. Emmett charges Jasper at full speed tackles Jasper who tries to stop him as Emmett throws Jasper who quickly recovers and once again both lunges at each other as Jasper dodges Emmett's punch and chokeslams Emmett into the ground as Jasper stops long enough to say, never lose focus. Then it was Carlisle and Edward's turn, both wrestle with each other. Edward can read Carlisle's mind which gives him the advantage. He twirls beyond Carlisle's grasp, then slams into him delivering a vicious body blow to Edward who faster than Carlisle was able to take him down, but because of his overconfidence he looked away from Carlisle who was able to get back up and take him down as Jasper who walked by rolled his eyes and said, one more thing. Never turn your back on your enemy. Quote. I was amazed by Jasper's skill. The guy was a seasoned fighter with the amount of experience he had during the wars. The only way to defeat him is through someone taking him by surprise, overpowering him with numbers or using offensive special abilities like that of Jane. It was mine and Rosalie's turn as a violent but extraordinary dance as Rosalie beautifully dodges by kicks and punches. Both of us had spared a lot as I caught Rosalie and slammed her into a tree as from fight it turned into a passionate makeout session as we heard Jasper cough and say, you guys are great but please in private. We soon went back, stood next to the others avoiding their looks as I was hugging Rosalie from behind, wrapping my arms around her waist as kissed her neck and whispered, you know it's your fault for turning me on this morning. Rosalie purred and replied, okay, when we get back we will settle it. I watched Alice and Jasper spar, spiraling, twisting. Jasper launches at her but with her eyes glazed over, not looking at him, she sees his moves before he makes them. Out of nowhere, Alice is perched on his back, she kisses his neck as she yelled, gotcha. I looked at the two with a smile and thought, they needed each both have horrible past. While one doesn't remember it and the other wishes to forget it. Well, another thing I noticed is that Bella avoided Jacob like he was a ghost, and that's when Bella questioned Jasper how he knew so much about newborns. Jasper didn't hesitate as he told Bella everything about his past Maria and he was part of the Southern Vampire War. After taking everything in I couldn't help but pity him. If it wasn't for Alice I bet Jasper would have killed himself. We all got back home as things got heated between Rosalie and me. Let's just say we broke the bed again. The next day I saw Edward entering the Cullen household with Bella on his heels as I heard Bella say, I'm not just gonna hide, while you're taking all the risks for me. Edward sighed and replied, if it's Victoria involved. I need to keep you as far away from the fight as possible. Bella in irritation said, Jasper said that I could be of help. Edward patiently explained, we won't need your help. With the wolves in this, it's an easy win. The rest of us aren't gonna have enough to do. Bella in frustration asked, okay, either it's so dangerous that I have to hide. Or it's so easy that you're gonna beside blind, which is it? I grinned and said, she does have a point, you have to make up your mind. Edward also, no matter what, Victoria will find a way to get to Bella. Edward ignored me and said, it's dangerous for you. It's easy for us. Bella in irritation replied, I think it's dangerous for us to be apart. How many times we have to prove that? I'll be worrying. You'll be worried. And we'll both feel more horrible. Edward sighed and said, okay, you're right. Bella thought Edward understood the matter as she asked, so, I'm coming with you. Edward in confusion said, no, we've got to stay away together. Bella shook her head and said, I can't make you choose between me and your family, it's. Edward cut in, the only way I can protect you, is to be with you. I stopped both of them as I said, stop both of enough drama. Now here is how it is going to be. Edward is going to be with Bella away from the fight. Got it? This got a nod from Bella and Edward as I rolled my eyes and muttered, I have never seen a couple be so much of a drama queen. Everyone heard this. Jasper, Carlisle, and Esme was having a hard time keeping straight face while Alice and Emmett were laughing as both Edward and Bella looked away in embarrassment as I looked at Bella and said, I will give you clothes to make sure scent and temperature are not a problem. Bella nodded as I was thinking about Riley Beers. The idiot is far too gone as things went as planned. The day of the battle arrived and well, Jacob didn't like the fact he couldn't accompany Bella. 15 comments 0 vote. Chapter 27. Matt Pov. We all got ready as I spoke, they are here. The whole newborn army blitzes out of the woods and into the field. You could easily see they were in a frenzy in their eyes. Their rabid thirst as they follow the scent of Bella's blood. But the scent trail ended here, leaving them confused. All of us charged at the newborns with lightning speed and tackled them, ripping their heads or hands off. Jasper, Esme, Rosalie, Carlisle, Emmett, Alice, and Sarah started taking one newborn after another without a problem. Then out of nowhere lunges Sam Wolf, flanked by 2 wolves. They started to tear a newborn to pieces. 4 other wolves dive into the fray. My style of fighting was especially because Felix's ability caused my strength to skyrocket as I easily broke a newborn with kick or punch. I saw as Emmett was fully into the fight, relishing the battle. The wolves work as a pack, coordinated, deadly. Jasper controlled the field strategy, in speed versus strength. Rosalie was very agile, easily dodging the newborns while giving blows lethal for the newborns. Alice with precognition helped her lot as she is like a gymnast and fighter combined, evading the enemy through series of flips. Esme and Carlisle fight side by side. The newborns are brutal and strong as hell. Our vampires and wolves, having worked together a lot, helped kill most of the newborns as I saw numbers were slowly overwhelming us. Jacob Wolf charged through the clearing, tackling a newborn, going for its neck. Sam and Jacob charged a newborn, each wolf grabs an arm in their mouths and rips them apart. Paul is surrounded by 3 newborns, Emmett comes to his aid. They share a look, a battlefield rapprochement. Carlisle and Esme move in on the last cold one, ripping him apart. Alice darts from newborn to newborn, not even looking at them, knowing their next move. She sweeps their feet, keeping them off balance, confusing them. Jasper is a step behind her, trying to give her cover. A newborn takes note of Jasper's protective actions. As I quickly choke-slammed the newborn and ripped his head off, and Jasper looked at me and grinned, "Thanks for the assist." I shrugged as another one was going after Alice, who flung the newborn to Rosalie and Carlisle as we ripped him apart. I thought, this is enough. I held both my arms out as dark fog started to come out as selectively or completely block the senses of several newborns who didn't know what was going on at the same time, which now allowed our group to easily execute all the remaining newborns. I was thinking, I don't want the Cullens to see me as fix-it for their every problem. Carlisle and Esme started the fire and we soon started burning all of them, as I thought telepathy was able to find out that both Victoria and Riley are gone for good. As I said, both Victoria and Riley are gone for good. Sam, who turned to his human form, said, "Yes, Seth got Riley and Edward got Victoria, both are dead." I already knew the Voeltry, especially Jane, Alec, Felix, and Dimitri were coming as they were helping out, unlike the movie. They took out another group Victoria had kept in Seattle. It didn't take long as Edward brought Bella to the field. Alice whispered, "They're here." The Cullens and I gather in the center of the field, converging around Bella. I saw Jane coming out of the forest while looking at the pyre. Jane said, "It appears you've done our work for us." From out of the mist and the smoke emerged the Volturi, Jane, and behind her, Felix, Dimitri, and Alec. I couldn't help but say, I must say they do have style. It's obvious that they heard it. Jane found me interesting. Alec and Dimitri were amused. As for Felix, he was nothing. Jane assessed the scene, taking in Bella as well while saying, "Impressive. I've never seen a coven escape an assault of this magnitude intact." Carlisle smiled and replied, "We were lucky." Jane shook her head and replied, "I doubt that." Alec grinned and said, "It appears we missed an entertaining fight." Jane gave a nod and replied, "Yes. It's not often we're rendered unnecessary." Edward retorted, "If you'd arrived a half-hour ago, you would have fulfilled your purpose." Jane was angered but controlled herself and said, "Pity." I decided to speak up. "Ignore the idiot. Yo, Alec and Dimitri, long time no see." Dimitri chuckled hearing this, as Alec also had a small smile on his face. Both were amused by my antics. Having seen people practically hate them or fear seeing someone act so friendly made them amused. Even Jane had a small smile, but she quickly became stoic again, while Felix was dumb brute, so I didn't give look at him as I asked, "You guys cleaned up the ones in Seattle, right?" They were surprised as Jane became curious and asked, "How did you know that?" I smiled and replied, "I am similar to Edward. I was not afraid of the Voeltry, as with no of abilities. I don't want to destroy them as I have other plans for them." They nodded as they went back. I glared as Edward asked, "Why do you always try to anger or irritate them?" Edward looked away as Carlisle asked, "Matt, what you said about them taking newborns in Seattle down, is it true?" I sighed and nodded while showing the holographic video of both Jane and Alec in action as they easily finished off all the newborns. As Carlisle spoke, "We should be thankful for their help." When we returned to Cullen's residence, Rosalie and I decided to get married in a short ceremony with some friends and family. I sighed and thought, how do I break this to Dad? 10 comments, 0 vote. Chapter 28. Matt Pov. The whole battle and meeting the Volturi guards had made everyone mentally tired as they returned to Cullen's residence in anger. I yelled. Are you really trying to make the relationship between the Volturi and our coven bad with your snide remarks? This made Edward flinch as Carlyle said. The Volturi guards seem to become friendly with Matt and your comments are not helping us. Arrow could easily force you to join the Volturi with force. It's only because he firmly believes you and Alice will join him in the future that he is not doing anything. Edward looked away in embarrassment as I never understood why does Edward provoke the Volturi when you clearly know their power is not something to be trifled with. I sighed and spoke. I know you don't have a good impression of the Volturi and they have done many terrible things to gain power. But remember they are the only thing that is stopping the humans from finding out about the vampires. Carlyle nodded as Jasper asked, so with Victoria gone we don't have to worry about Bella's safety, right? Carlyle answered, yes, since the threat has been taken care of we will just have to focus on our next issue. Edward was confused as he questioned, what issue? I sighed and replied, about turning Bella. Remember Volturi gave you a deadline. Edward became serious as I continued, no matter what you have to turn her. Edward nodded as he went out as I went and sat next to Rosalie who cuddled with me as Alice in confusion questioned said, I don't understand why did the Volturi even help us? Normally Arrow won't even lift a finger since we know for a fact he wants me and Edward with him. I smiled replied, it's because of Marcus because he is making his move by taking power from Arrow as his choice to let Bella go has made Keys unhappy and the fact that Bella is immune to all of the Volturi guards' powers makes him afraid of the fact what will happen if Bella is turned into a vampire. Marcus hates Arrow because of what Get did to Didymu and now wants revenge and he is taking away the thing Arrow values the most, the Volturi. Marcus is more valued than Keys or Arrow in general is his ability to sense the relationships of those around him, lovers, friends, family, etc. Along with the intensity of the ties that bind them, allowing him to see each individual's level of devotion to one another, and determine who would willingly die for another or turn traitor, given incentive. This power enables him to detect several different emotional links at the same time, be they 10, 20, or 100. He also uses it to sense how someone feels about the Volturi if they refuse physical contact with Arrow. Also, when utilizing this skill on a battlefield, Marcus is quite dangerous, as he can identify both the strong and weak links of the enemy ranks, potentially ending the battle in the most efficient way possible. Making him more valued than Arrow, whose gift can be tricked, as the Cullens were able to keep the Quileute tribe secret from Arrow. I couldn't help but think, now he is using this situation where some of them are questioning Arrow's decisions is the only thing he is doing is subtly pushing Keys to question Arrow. Although he didn't say anything about him threatening Arrow or even joining Marcus in taking over Volturi, after all, no one needs to know all this. Didymu was staying at Denali Coven as Eleazar was very happy since they were trying to repay the Cullens for all the stuff Matt did for them. Also Carlyle knew the Volturi will be involved with their family more as Arrow's interest in Edward and Alice. Now he will be interested in Bella and Matt, who were more powerful than they could think. Alice broke the silence as she said, now let's talk about Rosalie and Matt's marriage. This got everyone's attention as I said, I am ready whenever she is and if she needs more time. I have no problem as I can wait. Rosalie, who heard this, smiled and answered, I have no problem and the sooner it is the better. I broke the news about my engagement and that I was going to marry Rosalie soon. Charlie was cool about it and told me being young and stuff. But let it go, having already seen both mine and Rosalie's relationship as I was now at Cullen's. All the women were crazy planning, mainly Alice, who was jumping around here and there in excitement about Rosalie's wedding. While I only have a small amount of friends and they were already here in Seattle, while the Cullens were inviting most of the covens who they are close to. As I was looking at the Cullens setting up the wedding decorations, the wedding was in one of their vacation homes which had lakeside view. Rosalie, who was next to me, she said, I've been waiting for this day since the moment I laid eyes on you. I smirked and asked, is that so, Mrs. Cullen? Never thought you were so eager to be married to me. Rosalie smiled while hugging me and whispered, you have no idea how much I waited for this moment. I just smiled hearing that, as one thing was sure, the marriage was happening and Renee was not invited, as the relationship between Renee and me was pretty much non-existent and Bella now pretty much hated Renee with passion, even she wanted to ignore Renee. 15 comments 0 vote. Chapter 29. It wasn't long as the day of the wedding came as I was wearing my wedding tux while looking at the mirror and asked, how do I look? Emmett smiled and answered, you look good, bro. Although now good as me. I laughed hearing that as Jasper added his thoughts, don't worry, you look good, don't be nervous. I sighed and replied, that will only make me more nervous. Tyler grinned and said, You know this is the first time we have seen you so nervous. I deadpanned, of course, I am you idiot, this is something Rosalie and I dreamed of. Jasper used his gift to calm me down as I said, well thank you, I needed that. Jasper grinned and replied, no problem. Victor with a small smile said, we are happy for both of you bro. I smiled while Jackson added, yeah it won't be long before we will be joining you. Charlie walked into the room wearing his wedding tux as I looked at him as he smiled and said, never thought this day would come so soon. It was like yesterday when you were playing around with toy cars and stuff. I laughed hearing that Charlie brought out stainless steel cufflinks with blue enamel inset as he spoke. I thought you needed something special. This belonged to your grandfather who passed it to me and now it belongs to you. I smiled while wearing the cufflinks as I said, thanks for this dad. Charlie gave me a hug as I returned it as he spoke in a soft tone, I know after you Bella will get married. It feels like this old man is going to be alone again. I shook my head and replied, who said we are going anywhere? I was at the altar as I watched Carlisle walk Rosalie down the aisle. Rosalie stood in front of me. She had a beautiful smile on her face as minister spoke. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here on this glorious day to witness the union of Matthew Swan and Rosalie Hale Cullen. Please repeat after me. I smile repeated, I, Matthew Swan take you, Rosalie Cullen, to heaven to hold. Rosalie then said, for better or for worse. As I said, for richer, for poorer. Rosalie smiled and said, lane sickness and in health. I said, to love. Rosalie said, to cherish. As long as we both shall live. Both Rosalie and said, I do. I spoke in a soft tone, I love you Rosalie. Rosalie with a smile said, I love you too, as both of us kissed and everyone stood and clapped. As the celebrations began and Carlisle pretty much started introducing us to different coven as in my mind only one thought was there. How the hell did people during Bella's not noticed all their pale white and golden eye-colored people as this has to cause someone to be suspicious or was Bella was the only one with the brain to notice these inhuman features. I watched as the first one to give the toast was my dad as he stood up with a smile and said, I am not good with words, but I will say this, my son won't let you down. He will be there for you by your side for the rest of your life. Welcome to the family Rosalie. I smiled hearing that as Carlisle was the next as he spoke, Matthew, I will say this confidently, there is no one who can keep Rosalie happy than you and as a father, I am happy for her. Esme then was the one to toast, Matt thank you for accepting Rosalie and being a part of her life as mother. I can say with confidence you will keep her happy and cherish her for all time. Jasper stood up and spoke, Matt you are my brother in all but blood and I am glad that you become a part of our family. Alice cheerful as ever stood up and said, Matt, just like Jasper said I know you will cherish Rosalie. But don't for a second think you are not helping with our shipping trips. I clenched my heart and acted as my heart ached to hear that as some laughed hearing that as Emmett with a huge smile said, all I will say is welcome to the family bro and I know you will keep Rosalie happy. While during the party both Benjamin and Tia arrived it was a surprise as both wanted to be a part of Denali Coven which was acceptable to Tanya and Eliezer while Sam and he pack along with Billy came as all of them wore the nanotech clothes so it prevented any of the other vampires from picking up their scent. Soon we were dancing as Rosalie stepped closer to me as I picked her up and twirled her and then they start dancing as she whispered, so I heard you didn't take Carlisle's option to visit Isle Rosalie and wanted to go somewhere else for our honeymoon. I was actually surprised at the fact Carlisle had really bought islands in the name of the girls. I shrugged and replied, we can go there after our visit to Paris. Rosalie was surprised and asked, you really taking our honeymoon in Paris? I smiled and replied, yes I thought this would be a good change for you. After all, you guys can't go to such places without glowing like a disco ball. Rosalie nodded and replied, true we mostly stayed in the US never went outside the country. We enjoyed out little dance. 17 comments 0 vote. Chapter 30. Author's note. I wrote this chapter seeing as I didn't update this for quite a while. Matt Pav. We got ready for our honeymoon as Rosalie was really excited as she was not able to go to these places unless the forecast is not sunny. Also Paris is really a romantic place at least from what I read or heard from my friends. I was on the plane with Rosalie as I remembered the talk with my dad. Flashback. Before going on honeymoon as I was sitting in front of my father who was studying me as he asked, the Cullens are not normal are they? I was not surprised hearing this as Bella got her observation skills from dad after all as I sighed and replied, when did you find our dad with a serious expression said, I already had my doubts about them, their appearance itself made them stand out and their skin temperature was not normal when I first met them. Then there was the issue with a car accident and your sister going on about how Edward was not even next to her. I even saw the dent on the truck. The last was their disappearance during sunny weather. At first was okay, but every time it was sunny they disappeared. It didn't seem normal, and all their close friends or relatives all have the same pale face and golden eyes. It just was not normal. They only started to seen out in the sun after you showed up. My years of being a police officer didn't think it as a coincidence. I nodded, replied, you just have to trust Bella and me on this. We are happy and they not bad people. Dad narrowed his at me. After a minute of silence he spoke, I will trust you. Dad sighed and said, I just want you and Bells to be happy. I smiled and replied, we both are happy. Flashback ended. While on reaching our villa in Paris, Rosalie and I took a romantic stroll down the tree-lined Champs-Élysées, the most famous street in Paris, to the Arc de Triomphe. There are dozens of restaurants, theaters, and shops along the street. Rosalie and I enjoyed the whole experience as we also visited the Eiffel Tower, which also had a restaurant 276 meters. It was lovely dining place that features expansive glass windows that let you enjoy the spellbinding view of the city of light. As Rosalie, who watched it with huge smile, muttered, this is beautiful. I couldn't help but smiling seeing her face. We then went on to visit one of the world's largest museums, and it's the most visited art museum in the world. The Louvre is a great tourist attraction for art lovers, with a variety of artwork, including the Greek sculpture Venus de Milo, Antonio de Correggio's Venus, and Cupid with a satyr, Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, and Paolo Veronese's. Although both of us were not great art lovers, we both still enjoyed it. The next day I dragged her off the bed to a small island in the park. Temple of Love is a replica of the Bouchardon statue. It was a romantic boat ride that takes you to the island. As Rosalie was leaning on my shoulder while hugging my arm as she questioned, what's so special about this place that you dragged me from bed? I explained, like the name suggests, it is called the Temple of Love as couples from different parts of the world come here to renew their wedding vows. It is believed that kissing your partner at the center of the folly strengthens your love. Do you want to try it? Rosalie was surprised as both of them already knew they will be with each other for eternity as she questioned, you really want to try it? I shrugged and answered, it will be fun. We both stood in the center of the folly as I smiled and said, Rosalie Cullen, you brought light into my life and I will stand by your side for eternity. Rosalie laughed hearing that and said, you know that sounds really cringy, right? I shrugged and replied, but, what I said is true after all. Rosalie smiled and said, you know the answer is yes. As we both kissed it got pretty passionate as Rosalie whispered, let's go back right now. Lemon scene. Both on reaching the villa started to make out passionately as they soon started ripping each other's clothes. As they reached their bed, Rosalie climbed on Matt's lap as she leaned and nibbled his neck and then went on to once again pulled him into another hot kiss as their tongues battled each other for dominance and their bodies just melting together. Matt slowly placed his hands on Rosalie's ass and squeezed it from time to time as Matt started to suck her nipples and played with her boobs as Rosalie sucked on his neck while whispered, I need you. As Matt smiled and thrust his rod into Rosalie's womanhood as he increases his speed with each thrust, making Rosalie moan with pleasure as it was hitting all right spots as her squirming body locked onto him, breathing heavily as she kissed him more passionately. Matt didn't stop thrusting as he could feel Rosalie's pussy clamp onto him as Rosalie was moaning with pleasure as she pushed her nails against the back of his neck as both soon climaxed. Lemon scene ended. While we enjoyed the next days in pairs, Rosalie felt strange as she felt sick, which was something she didn't experience before. Author's note. Should I make Rosalie pregnant? 21 comments, 0 vote. Chapter 31. Author's note. I will update the next chapter on Wednesday. Also, after this fanfic is finished, I will start updating Underworld fanfic. Rosalie felt something was wrong as she went into the bathroom and throws up as Matt heard her, quickly walked into the bathroom and kneels in front of her and asked, are you okay? Rosalie had an idea what this was but didn't want to believe it was happening but Matt understood what was happening and quickly gets his bag and gets a pregnancy test kit as Rosalie was surprised seeing the kit, questioned with slight anticipation, it is really happening. I just gave a nod as she started crying as having a family of her own was something she wanted all her life as she quickly went and kissed Matt, who made it everything possible, as she asked, when did you do this? I shrugged and replied, I made for you to be able to have children when we said our vows. Rosalie, while looking thoughtful, said, I did feel something then, I thought it was me just being excited. While Rosalie cuddled with me as she was smiling and rubbing her stomach as she asked, do you think it's girl or boy? I smiled and replied, I don't care which, as I will love both of them. I smiled and thought, I really want to see her face when she realizes it is not one but two babies. Rosalie with disbelief said, I still can't believe this is happening. I smiled and kissed her the cheek and whispered, oh, this is real alright. Rosalie nodded. She was still dreaming about her child. I said, we should head back to Forks. Rosalie with slight confusion questioned, why so quickly? I smiled while pointing at her belly and answered, that child is not your everyday normal child, so you will have different physical and emotional changes, so it's best to be in Forks better than being here. It didn't take long as they got a call from Alice, who as usual was chirpy and asked, it is happening, isn't it? I snorted and replied, you already saw it, so why ask this, Alice? Alice screaming at the other end of the phone as I said, don't tell the others yet. Alice smile replied, so a surprise then. I laughed hearing that and replied, I guess it is. Rosalie, while returned back to Forks, was questioned by Carlisle and others on why they returned so soon, but on hearing the news everyone except Alice was shocked as Esme looked at Matt with hope and asked, you can do this for everyone. I gave a nod as Esme cried as she remembered her time being pregnant. Even though she was in an abusive relationship, she was happy at being a mother at that time. Now she had a chance to have a child with Carlisle. It was like a dream come true for her as Carlisle came and hugged Esme as he was also happy hearing the new information. Also Kate, Sarah, and Irina were happy hearing the news, but they were not in a hurry to be a mother. When Dad heard the news, he was really shocked about being a grandfather, while he was in disbelief at the fact this was happening. While I was away, another drama did happen here, as it seems Renee somehow heard the news about my wedding and now suddenly remembered both Bella and me, as she had come to Forks and created quite the scene, but she was really wrecked by Bella, and a bonus was seeing Dad starting a relationship with Sue Clearwater was quite a hit for her, as she really believed Dad would remain a bachelor and would never forget her. Carlisle with seriousness spoke, we can't let this news get out, as there will be many who will see the child as an immortal child. Irina with uncertainty questioned, will the child really be not a problem? I shook my head, explained, I have already seen the future. The child will grow like any ordinary human baby, but they will mature at a faster rate than normal babies, and they will stop aging after 20 years. Also, they are able to eat normal food or blood, making them easily adapt to human life. Edward then with a frown said, we have to be extra careful, as after 2 months is mine and Bella's wedding, so there will be a no of guests during the event. Jasper, who was silent till now, added, also from what Matt told us, Rosalie will show signs of her pregnancy by then, which is a huge problem as many vampires will be there at the event. Everyone grimaced hearing both Edward and Jasper said, as I told everyone, don't worry, I will modify everyone's memories during the event. Carlisle spoke, that may work, but it is best to keep Rosalie out of everyone's sight. Matt was not happy about all this as he asked Edward if he could change the date of his wedding. Only answer he could got was Bella was getting more anxious, and I knew my sister perfectly, as she was afraid about Edward changing his mind about her being changed, if he would leave her again. And another thing was Arrow's so-called deadline was coming soon as 3 months more, so Edward was also not keen on changing it. Sorry, couldn't come up with a good excuse. Alice broke the silence and said with excited tone, oh, you know what this means, right? We have to set up a room for the baby and baby clothes. This brought a smile on everyone's face, as all of them were thinking about their soon-to-be new addition to the family. 9 comments, 0 vote. Chapter 32. Matt Pav. Rosalie felt like everything was a dream as she was first happy with finding her mate, but Matt not only changed everything in her life, like she was able to enjoy many things like eating human food again and going out in the sun. She had never felt more happy, as now she was pregnant with Matt's child. Rosalie pouted and said, come on, just tell me if it is girl or boy already. I shook his head playfully and replied, nope, it is a surprise after all. Rosalie frowned and said, it seems you are as tight-lipped as Alice. I just smirked at her as Rosalie punched me in the shoulder and said, oh God, you are so infuriating sometimes. I calmed her down as I whispered, have you thought about names for our children? Rosalie was slightly excited as she said, Alex for the boy and Gabrielle for the girl. I smiled hearing that and replied, those are pretty nice names. Rosalie had a huge smile on her face as she got my approval, as she then thought about Bella's wedding and said, it is really bad that I won't be able to attend their wedding. I kissed her on the forehead and replied, don't worry, they are not angry with you for that, as both of them know why you can't be there. Rosalie nodded, heading that as weeks went by quickly, Rosalie started showing signs of pregnancy with her baby bump, and I made sure to build the best medical tech for Carlisle to check if Rosalie and the babies are safe, as Rosalie was worried about them, as I ensured her everything is okay. Also, Dad came to visit from time to time as he was worried about his grandchildren. I was thinking about our children. The twins will be born in 3 months, and in that time there is Edward and Bella's wedding, which is on August 13th, while Rose Esme Cullen or previously Renesmee would be born on September 11th. There was also a change in the timeline as Jacob seems to imprint on a girl named Nikki Davis. Rosalie kept pictures and videos of her time while she was pregnant as she wanted to remember these moments. While Rosalie slept, Carlisle called a meeting. As I asked, "Carlisle, why did you suddenly call a meeting?" Matt looked around and didn't see Esme or other girls there as Carlisle spoke. "I wanted to talk to everyone about our future children." Edward, Jasper, and Emmett became serious when they heard this as I already read Carlisle's mind and found the issue as Carlisle continued. "While I am happy at the fact Esme and I can have children of our own, it is a double-edged sword since there is a possibility of people noticing that our children are different." I cut in, "Don't worry about that, Carlisle. Sure, the children would be more mentally mature than other kids. Also, I have Arthur keeping an eye on any such information about immortals or cold ones in the government. I also have many drones keeping an eye on Voeltry, Romanian, and many other major covens." To my surprise, it seems the know of cold ones are not that great compared to the humans. Jasper was curious and questioned, "I heard your company was planning a mission to Mars with the government from Alice." I grinned and answered, "Well, it seems the pixie already told you, huh? Although the government thinks they are in charge, but it is just an illusion, as I am planning to terraform Mars. It's mainly so that if the time comes we could move there." Matt already had many designs of spaceships and other things are already on standby if such things came to pass. Edward, Carlisle, Jasper, and Emmett were stunned hearing this as Edward in disbelief questioned, "You already have planned that ahead?" I shrugged and replied, "It's just a backup plan." Carlisle smiled and said, "Thank you for everything." I just nodded as everyone discussed all the options as it was decided it is best to homeschool the kids until they know how serious the situation is, as everyone agreed to it as soon returned to their room as I was thinking about the future sure as he wanted to be careful since the Cullens did get contact humans who arranged them new ID and stuff, which is really dangerous as you never know when these people may turn on you. Also, if Arrow found out about this little piece of information they would have been done for in the original timeline, as it also became evident that Arrow cannot read everything from a person's mind as Cullens have hidden a lot of stuff from them like Quileute tribe, meeting humans that at least know you are immortal. I watched Rosalie sleep soundly as he whispered, "I will give our children the best environment to grow and protect them with all my power." Chapter 33. Author's note. The time where Bella and Edward goes honeymoon after their wedding will be cut out as I will fill in my own stuff. Matt Pov. 2 months flashed past as both Tyler and Jackson Ware turned. Both had abilities of their own as Victor had elemental mimicry which helped him to duplicate the physical properties of anything he touched or that touched him. Example items like steel, diamond, etc. and Jackson had the ability to communicate with animals. But both powers had limits of their own as Tyler still couldn't keep up the transformation for a long time and Jackson was not able to control animals. Rosalie was helping Bella out as much as possible with her wedding as it became hard for her to move around and Bella's wedding was next week and it was happening in Forks in Cullen's backyard and created all the necessary tech for Carlisle to check the baby as Rosalie was lying on the med bay and Carlisle was checking reports of the scanning as Rosalie with slightly worried tone asked, "Is the baby okay?" Carlisle smiled at Rosalie reassuringly and replied, "The babies are fine, Rosalie." Rosalie questioned, "Babies?" Carlisle nodded and answered, "Yes, Rosalie, you are having twins." Rosalie was happy while she frowned, seeing Matt was not surprised at all as she yelled, "You knew about this, didn't you? That's why you always avoided the question of whether the child was girl or boy." I winced to hearing her accusation as I could only think, she is obviously having mood swings. Rosalie yelled and grabbed my ear for not telling her this sooner. I looked at Alice, who also knew about this, was looking away from all this like she was innocent, and Jasper obviously was amused by the whole situation, while Emmett was laughing his ass off as I said, "You both will be going through this too." Both Jasper and Emmett were not amused after hearing that particular information as Jasper suddenly saw flashes of Alice with mood swings, which was something that brought dread in the war veteran himself, while Emmett was already under Sarah's thumb as he thought about how much he had to run around for her. While everything soon calmed down as Rosalie watched the scans of her twins as she whispered, "So we go with the name Gabrielle for our little girl and I am not sure about the name Alex." I nodded as we had gone through some names but none fit as Rosalie was thoughtful and said, "How about Elijah for our son?" When Matt heard the name Elijah he suddenly felt his son was going to wear a suit in the future like a certain original vampire. While both Dad and Sue Clearwater visited to see how Rosalie was doing as Sue came and hugged Rosalie while congratulating her on having twins as Dad did the same with me as he said, "So I am having 2 grandkids, it's like deja vu since both you and your sister were twins." I nodded hearing that and replied, it won't be long as you will be able to hold them in your hands. Dad was surprised as he soon shook it off since he remembered the particular talk about Cullen's being different. Also I had created the medical bed from Elsam which had the power to reverse aging. So I was sure Dad was going to be with us for a long time. Also I have seen visions of the Quileute tribe taking the offer as imprintees of the shapeshifters are not able to stay young like their mates do. When we told everyone the names as I pitched in for middle names Gabriella Charlie Cullen was finalized. As for Elijah we decided to go with Elijah Jasper Cullen. Both Dad and Jasper smiled hearing the names as Dad smiled and said, you know your grandparents would have loved to see this moment. While I grabbed Rosalie's hand as she whispered to me, do you think we will be great parents? I smiled gave a nod and replied, I know we will be great. Rosalie smiled hearing that as she asked, you know Bella's wedding is next week and there will be a lot of vampires here, should I move away since I am a little scared about someone finding about our children? I calmed her down and replied, don't worry nothing will happen. I have everything in place none of the vampires will enter Bella's room as you already. I nodded as he saw Bella was looking thoughtful as I walked next to her asked in a low tone, what happened? Bella shook her head and replied, nothing just thinking about the fact we could have children. Edward and I had talked about this and both of us feel we are not ready to be parents. I can understand where Bella was coming from as I said, you never know maybe you both will be great parents, I guess we will have to wait and see. Bella nodded as she went to started speaking with Rosalie who was rubbing her stomach and smiling. I couldn't help think about my two kids as I prayed, thank you for this wonderful life God. The time soon came as Jasper, Emmett, Jackson, Tyler, Victor and me were waiting for Edward outside Bella's house as Emmett had once again asked for a bachelor party as we both were waiting for the lover boy who seems to make things dramatic with Bella as I yelled, hey lover boy come on already. Emmett curiously questioned, won't the neighbors hear us? I shook my head and replied, no I used my powers to make them completely ignore us. Jasper had more or less guessed it while Jackson and Tyler just nod as. Edward soon jumped down through the window as I questions, what's with you and windows can't you just use the door after all my dad is out to buy grocery. Edward looked embarrassed as everyone started to snicker hearing that as he diverted the topic, come on let's go.